Blazers and Pelicans, but only because they move some of those assets around afterwards the next day, right?
Yeah.
So like initial trade with the Blazers and Pelicans, like Pelicans, they get CJ McCollum, Tony Snell, and Larry Nance Jr. from the Blazers. And the Blazers get Nikhil Alexander Walker, Didi Luzada, a 2022 protected first round pick, which is important because the protections on this pick are super convoluted.
Yeah, they're not getting this pick.
It's possible. It's like 1 through 4 conveys back to the Pelicans. 5 through 15 conveys to the Blazers, which if the Pelicans make the play in, they're probably right outside of that 15 or right around that 15.
Yeah.
Right. And then anything 15 on, I think, goes to like Charlotte. It is Charlotte. And then 2 future second round picks.
For the
Yeah.
Devontae Graham deal.
Okay. I'm with it. On the Blazers side of this, I was shook when I seen this. Like maybe the Blazers get an extra first round pick this upcoming season out of it. It's not unlikely, especially if the Blazers are in that like playing or just out area. I mean, I see this and I was like, ugh, you all are. I it looked like they were tanking to me when I saw this. Like I gave them a D.
Yeah,
I
I'm right there with you.
So then the Blazers get a little creative with the Nikhil Alexander pick that player that they got and one of their second round picks. And they flip it with a 3-team trade with the Utah Jazz and the San Antonio Spurs. The Jazz now get Nikhil Alexander Walker and Juancho Hernan Gomez, which I thought was interesting. They were trying to reload after losing Joe Ingles and sliding really hard. The Blazers get Joe Ingles, Elijah Hughes, and a future second. The Spurs get Thomas Satoransky with a future second as well. Okay, so at first I said I like this for the Blazers, and you were like Joe Ingles is on an expiring contract, and then I went, oh, I don't know if I like this for the Blazers. Like I'm not too familiar with Elijah Hughes. I'm not sure if you are.
Yeah, no, I know nothing.
Right. So I'm just like, if somehow the Blazers convinced Joe Ingles to stay and netted a second round pick off of Nikhil Alexander Walker, I think that's just great value back. I don't think, like, I don't really understand Joe Ingles currently as a player that wants to, like, A, ring chase, or B, be in a large market. Like, just listening to his interviews, he doesn't really come off like that to me. Like, he was happily playing in Utah before. And maybe the only more ass place to play in the NBA besides Portland is Utah. Like, so he was happy in Utah. Like, I assume coming off the ACL, if Portland wants to take a chance on him, give him a little bit of a bag when his future is not secure, that might end up being a really good look for them. And I do think Ingles would fit well with Dame.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm just so confused what the direction is because everyone seems to be saying that like the direction is that like now they have 60 million in cap or whatever. But
And a 20 mil trade exception.
the trade exception is actually something to me. Like that's real and something that I think could actually be used to get something valuable. I don't think that Portland is going to be able to use any of this cap space to lure a star who is better than CJ to play with Dame. And that's ultimately like what the point of this like they're not they're supposedly not tanking, they're not flipping Dame, they're not flipping the entire team. They're trying to reload and rebuild around Dame on the fly. That was the right thing to do 2 or 3 years ago.
Instead, they ran it
But
back.
they've run it back so many times that I feel like they made this decision way too late. And when they strike out in free agency this summer and don't get James Harden, Zach LaVine, the other big free agents on the market, they're going to end up with a bunch of like pretty good role players that they're overpaying, and then Dame is going to ask to leave. Like I think they're just
Ooh.
delaying the inevitable, and it's just weird that this summer they were talking about maybe getting Ben Simmons for CJ, and they just got Josh Hart for CJ. Like
I mean, okay, so to be fair, I feel like if Ben Simmons for CJ was ever on the table, they would have taken it.
a
And Daryl
hundred
Morey
percent,
was just
like
like, no.
agreed. And but even for it to have been floated out there, it's like, damn, like maybe you couldn't have gotten Ben for CJ, but you definitely could have gotten him for Dame. And like, if all of this is going to be towards the inevitable destruction of the team, trading of Dame, and a rebuild, then like, why not start it with an all star who's under 25? I don't know. It just seems like they're like kicking the can down the road, and it's going to inevitably hurt the team and the fans in the long run because they just like won't accept that this thing peaked a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, it really does feel like the Blazers are in now a no man's land of the NBA, in which you have a star good enough that you can compete and be like a playoff team, a perennial playoff team, which they usually are, and then get bounced pretty early. And that was like the Bulls were in that little bit of a purgatory with Jimmy Butler at the end of his stint with Chicago, right? It like, what do you do in that situation? Like, I think you're right about the whole that like getting a free agent to come to Portland is going to be very hard. There are a few star free agents on the table, man. Like John Wall has a player option, which we know he will take. Like James Harden has a player option. Russ has a player option that I'm pretty sure he'll take.
He's taking that because he's never getting offered 40 million again.
Uh, I mean, like Bradley Beal has a player option, and that's a little scary for Washington. But like, doesn't Beal Dame just recreate the CJ Dame like duplication and skills just with like a better second player?
Yeah, but it might be enough of a jump in terms of like the margin between Beal and CJ that a lot of the like positional overlap matters less. I don't know. I think you would still run into like the question of who should have the ball in their hand more when they're both in the game at the same time. Uh, but I at least like Beal off the ball a little bit more than CJ. Um, so I don't know. Like if they could get Bradley Beal and like sign him to like a significant deal where he's like committed for multiple years to playing with Dame, I won't end up thinking that these are like the worst set of moves that happen. I'm fully like open to the possibility of like looking back in a year and being wrong if they have James Harden and like Julius Randle on the team through a trade exception or something. Um and Julius Randle ends up like coming like redeeming himself and being good for Portland. I kind of think like that is probably in the works because Julius
Julius
Randle
Randle.
makes $21 million a year, and if they have a $20 million trade exception, he's like I don't know, he's like trying to fight the Knicks coaches on the sideline and everything right now.
Thanks for stopping by. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, leave a subscribe so you don't miss any of our content.